I want to check out the comments you talked about.
Shut up, Danny. We started streaming.
Well, then go.
All right. Sorry, everybody. Today on the Shrewd Dudes podcast, we are going to talk about a few different things. If Danny would stay silent for like 2 minutes.
You gotta announce things like that. You know, like you have to remember.
I said we were going to start streaming.
Well, yeah, we're going to. Not we have started streaming.
Oh, fine. Anyways, so in this week in satire, we're going to talk about the undergraduates that you are funding with Biden's new student loan bailout. In our rant of the week, we're going to talk about how there will be unrest, there will be problems as the global energy crisis and the global food crisis comes to a head.
There will be blood.
There will be blood. In Nothing to See Here, we're going to talk about how the media and the Democrats are now trying to push all of the problems with the vaccine onto Trump, and how he's the big one responsible for pushing it to market too soon. So they might be finally acknowledging that the vaccine has some problems. And then finally, in our douche of the week, we are going to address a Child Protective Services agent who would try and flirt and have illicit relationships with mothers and then take away their kids if they refused. Yay! All of that and more on the Shrewd Dudes podcast. All right, we are back for our regularly scheduled Thursday live stream. I'm just going to quickly check to make sure we're live on all platforms. We are. That's fantastic.
Excellent.
I don't know exactly when my multi-streaming program will kick me off at 2 of them and tell me that I have to be limited. But until then, we're just going to roll with it.
Wouldn't it suck if it was like midstream? That would suck.
Boop. Just
You're like, by the way, you don't have this anymore. It's like, darn you.
It's gone. Anyways. So, Danny, did anything really special happen to you the past couple days?
Yeah, I got a nifty new hoodie. Yeah, you like it? Yeah. I feel like Dark Knight, but even cooler.
It is decent. It is
It is pretty awesome. It's bench, and actually, this is like just solid material. So I don't know. As far as like anything like really epic or crazy or exciting in the last couple of days, I did have a very interesting conversation with somebody that you and I know.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, he's way too defensive. Come on, man. Come on. Yeah, stop being so defensive.
It was a very simple, like, theological point he was making, and I was like, I don't think you're right on that. I think
you're a little bit off. And then he's just like, no, it can't be this way. And I'm like, why are you taking this as a personal attack?
I was just
like a slight correction.
Yeah, and it wasn't even like, I think you're like you're
completely off. I think you're just misinterpreting it a little bit.
I don't think that works, and here's why. And he was like, like, are you just trying to be difficult? I'm like, no.
No.
He tried to offer some feedback.
Yep. And see, I was having another interaction online, but my interaction, the person was just like, "Yay, child abuse." I'm like, no, drag shows are really bad. Like, you should never be taking children to this. They're like, it's just dancing. It's just a comedy routine. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's really, really not. And then, of course, when I was like, okay, are you finally, are you okay with like this person in a thong and pasties walking a kid and like demonstrating and showcasing and dancing while they're doing it? They're like, it's nothing worse than on the beach. And I'm like, nope, I'm done. We're not going to find common ground. You're endorsing child abuse. And then they tried to like dox me to all their lefty friends. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not ashamed. I'm not apologizing. Up yours. Up yours, woke moralists.
The thing is, I saw this. I had to look it up because I didn't know what it was called again. But I saw this on Tipcast IRL. Amazing stuff that they do. But basically, the concept is called regressive or repressive tolerance. I've never heard of it before, but apparently it's a concept that comes from like this paper from 1965, some like some academic, and apparently they're trying. That's the basis for what they're doing. And so you and I were right, Stephen. The idea is that they have one-way tolerance, and that was not by accident. That was by design. The idea is that the left, basically, the rule is anything that is outside of the revolution, the proper revolution, is bad, and it cannot be tolerated under any circumstances. Anything that's on the left, that's on their side in their little sphere, it has to be tolerated. This is why that person was basically could not say no to something on their side. They just couldn't. Mm-hmm. They had to defend it because that's the way the system has been rigged for them. In order to win, this is the battle strategy that they have. They have to be intolerant of anything that opposes them, and tolerant of even the most horrendous evil on their side. Hence, what happened with Sam Harris this past week. Mm-hmm. We talked about of saying something insanely crazy, like saying that it doesn't matter even if Hunter Biden had dead babies,
dozens of dead babies inside his basement, it would still be not as bad as Trump doing a small scam.
The only way you can say that is with an ideology that says we cannot tolerate anything on their side. We must tolerate every kind of evil on our side. We cannot turn on our own. And that's the ideology. So now that we covered that, and by the way, we encourage you to have these kind of conversations with people. They just take practice, but sometimes you can have a little fun with them. A few times. But speaking of having fun, let's have some fun.
I'm sharing things on Facebook, and Facebook has already deemed our content. It's like, make sure you're sharing reliable information about the vaccines, and I'm like, yep.
Lovely.
You lovely, lovely overlords of stupidity.
I noticed that they're doing that more often now.
Oh, they're doing it so often.
I share anything even related to vaccines, they give you that little warning. Almost like, are you behaving yourself? Are you being a good boy? It's like, yeah, now go away.
Being a good sheep. Bah.
Yeah. Nah.
Meh. All right. So.
Well, Stephen, let's take it into the first.
Let's jump into our This Week in Satire and have some brevity before jumping into the seriousness.
Levity, not brevity.
Either or.
No, brevity is not the same. Brevity is like intensity. Levity is lightness and aloofness.
Okay, hold on, because I've been using it.
Trust me, I got that from Community. They made a joke on that, and I thought it was really good.
Brevity, concise and exact use of words in writing or speech.
Yeah, that's not levity.
Okay.
Levity is lightheartedness. Right.
Yep. So I was using it wrong. I admit defeat.
Learn something.
Yep. All right. So
you didn't get defensive.
Well, no. If I'm corrected and it's wrong, then it's wrong. That's what it is. All right. So meet gender studies major Chloe. What?
Yeah.
You're kind of popping in and out here. And I think we lost Danny.
No, we're good. We're good.
Okay, he's back. No issues here. We're all good.
No issues here.
All right. Meet gender studies major Chloe and 7 other underprivileged college grads whose loans you're paying off. Ooh. We applaud you for stepping up and allowing the government to take your money and invest it into the education of complete strangers, just as good and faithful Christians should. But it's easy to start to feel disconnected from the people you're generously helping as the government forces you to help them. We want to remember the human element, so we thought it would be a good idea to profile a few of the grads whose loans you're paying off. Here are just a few of those less fortunate grads who went to really expensive schools that you are helping out. Chloe Martin. Pronouns. Here. See. Age. 25. Major. Gender studies. Emphasis on trans issues. Ooh. Chloe grew up in the Hamptons and chose to go to Boston University because it was like pretty and stuff. Smashing the patriarchy, smashing windows for racial justice, and smashing right on dating apps are all some of her hobbies.
Ooh, nice.
And of course, she does not have a career because careers stand for a system of heteronormative capitalist whiteness. And the whiteness of most resumes makes here shrink away hissing.
She is going to have a very bright future.
Yep. All right, you go.
Oh, Riley Adams. So this is the next person you're helping out.
Yep.
Riley Adams. Pronouns are thumb, self. That's great. Apparently he's age 27, but identifies as 11. Oh, isn't that sweet? Hangs out with 11-year-olds. Nothing wrong with that. Major teacher's education. Bio. Loves helping young people discover their identities and so much more, including sharing about themselves. Hobbies are mailing puberty blockers to minors in states where it's illegal. Oh, see, it's catching on, Stephen.
Like just
and
Eli Ehrlich. All right. Oh boy. XX121. Dang. Pronouns. Z. No. Morph. Age 711. Oldest student loan ever. Major implanting endoparasitic embryos into hosts. Bio hailing from the planet Xenomorph Prime. XX121 can lull victims into complacency before pouncing, taking them to the Xenomorph Queen. In other words, great with kids. Hobbies: hissing, shrieking, and bleeding acid. Career is unknown. And of course, you don't have to pay their debt as long as you have 4 to 5 live human hosts.
That's very thoughtful, actually. Very, very considerate of them. All right, so next one we have Phoenix Blade. Man, look at that man bun.
I know.
That epic man bun.
He looks very much like one of my coworkers.
A lot of people are probably out there. His pronouns are Ayers. 23 years old. His major is social work and bio. Areas of research include advocacy and volunteering. Hobbies include advocacy, volunteering, and making a difference for the underprivileged through strategic hashtags and well-maintained manicured posts. Career is online activism and yo's 77,000. Man, this person, right there.
Yeah.
They're the influencers. They're the ones that are going to change the world. Or cancel you for...
Remy Williams. Pronouns. I. EA. 26, political science and corporate law. Remy missed an 11-day stretch of work while screaming at the sky after January 6th and was fired and replaced with a white male. Since then, I has been striving to promote diversity and inclusion by reporting white people to HR for their violent and triggering skin color.
How dare they?
Oh, I actually have a great story about this.
You do?
It was from... You will never get to hear this because you're not a Daily Wire member. But there was a great little comment by a Daily Wire member today. And they were saying about how they work as like a chef supervisor at a supermarket. Or no, they were the lead over one district of the supermarket. And they had a leftist tears tumbler. And most people were fine with it, but then there was one person who, upon seeing the leftist tears tumbler, went into a hissing and screaming rage and was screaming profanity so loud that the customers could hear on the floor, and then had to leave work an hour early. And then the individual with the tumbler got called into HR the next day, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have to ask you to to not bring your mug to work because it's causing some people to get triggered. And he's like, what happens if I say no? And they're like, well, like some of your coworkers might be offended. And he's like, okay, I can live with that.
I'm completely cool
and
with
then HR was like, okay, what can we do about it? They're like, well, we can't do anything about this because it's a bug. And then the person quits like a day afterwards. And he's like, this is a win all around.
This is what happens when you live in a world where people have the right to not be offended.
Yeah. Anyways, let's finish this up.
Dystopia. Oh, there's a lot more, by the way. Where did you leave off?
I highlighted Kendall Wright is the next one, which is coming up.
All right, Kendall Wright. Pronouns: herself. Ages: declined to state because math represents systemic silencing of underprivileged voices.
Oh my goodness.
Major: history of manspreading, mansplaining, and interruption. You know, I hate to say it, but I bet you that there's somewhere there's a class like that. Bio: passion for inclusive activism. Hobbies: throwing bleach on the crotches of men who manspread on the subway in church pews or in their own houses. I don't know if you heard, there was actually a thing where
there was somebody who did that on subways.
On the subways.
Yep.
And careers victims advocate.
Yep. Reginald Abernathy III. Pronouns. He and him.
Oh.
Age 58. Financial planning. Bio. Reg's favorite joke is that he works half days at the firm, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The student loan transfer was applied to him in error, but he didn't notice because he thought the $10,000 influx was a part of his daily bonus for stock portfolio performance. Wine tasting, tennis, and golf. Senior private equity advisor. Debt. $2 million.
No, minus $2 million.
Oh, minus $2 million. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So he's actually $2 million in profit, actually.
Yep.
You know what? I'm glad that, every little bit helps. That he definitely needs that kind of extra money. Next is Bill Paxton. She definitely looks like a Bill. Bill Paxton, no relation. Pronouns are they, them, herself. She's probably related to the xenomorph. 26 years old, majored in Eastern European art history and romantic fiction. Bio, went to Rome to find herself and never returned. Oh, she's one of those. Oh, I hear about those stories. Hobby, swim diving, checkers. Career, professional gambler. $742,000 in debt. Wow. So I have a couple theories. Either she went to across the world thinking it was super safe and probably ran into those people that are not super safe, or her gambling.
I have a feeling it has to do with her professional gambling is less professional and more gambling.
A little too gambly over there.
Yeah.
But
when you gamble to make ends meet, then you're not a good gambler.
But Stephen, you know what? I really do feel good that they're helping the most unfortunate.
The most unfortunate, the underprivileged in society.
The people that really, really need that extra helping hand, because they're the true victims here. The true victims. Moment of silence for the true victims.
Yep.
And let's go.
And let's go. Now we're going to talk about other true victims. The elves. So DeSantis blasts little elf Fauci. Chuck him across the Potomac. Of course, we talked about it on Monday, or we talked about it Tuesday, that Dr. Fauci announced that he is stepping down as the NIAID director in December. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis called Dr. Anthony Fauci a little elf during a Wednesday speech that someone needs to chuck him across the Potomac. I'm just so sick of seeing him. He says he's going to retire. Someone needs to grab him.
Gotta play it, man.
Okay, where's the video? Where's the video?
It's gotta be there somewhere.
Is it on here? Nope, that's not it.
You want the video? You're gonna have to search for it.
Go away. I said press pause.
This is what happens when you get these.
I know. Fox is sometimes bad like that.
Yeah, you can't be bad like that.
They don't have a link to the video. Not on this article.
Well, you know what? See if I can find it really quick.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I guess it'd be better on mine. So just go to YouTube. Chuck across Potomac.
Such a good little video, though.
Okay, this is a whole bunch of stories about it, but where is the video? There it is.
You got it?
And what we've been able to do over the last 3.5 years, Florida has led on issue 5 days a week. The left them locked out for a year plus. Now you have people like Fauci saying... You have people like Fauci saying that his lockdowns didn't cause any permanent damage to any young kids. I got news for you, it did, and we are going to reap those rewards across the whole country for years and years and years because they treated kids so poorly. And I'm just sick of seeing him. I know he says he's going to retire. Someone needs to grab that little elf and chuck him across the Potomac.
Yes!
So good!
DeSantis 2024.
There's a reason why, like DeSantis is kind of like a hero to a lot of people because he doesn't put he's basically everything we want Trump to be.
Yep.
Like that guy who doesn't hold back. He knows how to
says what he wants to say.
Yeah, but he says it in such an effective way.
Oh yeah.
Like that. Remember, that. There's an article a while back that we covered where the View, show they asked him hey, you should come on the View, and they basically totally lambasted.
He's he basically highlighted all the times that they went after him for no reason, and he's like, I think I'm gonna have to politely decline because you guys are dishonest. Yeah,
and because they basically called him a fascist and a child murderer and molester on national TV. I'm not sure if he'll be objective.
Yeah, I don't.
Ron DeSantis is amazing. Fair. He is the kind of leader that we need across all over the country, all over the U.S. And actually, he's the one that we were saying, I wish we had a Ron DeSantis style person here in Alberta.
Oh yeah.
We were hoping that Kenny would be that guy, but Kenny ended up being a complete and total sellout.
Yep.
Yeah, and worse than some of the people out east. So, Ron DeSantis, he's great. I'm hoping. You know what? I'd be happy with Trump or DeSantis. Either one.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Fantastic choice.
Yep. Both is going to be good. Either or is better than Biden.
Yeah.
Because Biden is a disaster.
And the Democrats do not right now have a viable candidate.
Yes.
All of their potential candidates are just not going to make it. Kamala Harris is a absolute disaster for them. She would never win. And Pete Buttigieg, he's just not. He doesn't have enough to be able to pull him over. Gavin Newsom would be a disaster. I don't know. They just don't have anybody good. So we'll see what happens. But for right now, let's move on to the rant of the week, man.
Okay, I'm just going to quickly share to one more group.
Ooh, okay. You need to do some more talking. Fill time.
For 10 more seconds.
10 more seconds. I can do that. So Ron DeSantis, one of the things that he's been attacked about recently, he's been attacked for basically he was attacked. People calling him dictator and a fascist. And the interesting thing, we're not going to cover the article today, but today something happened where Gavin Newsom, who's should never talk about dictatorial kind of overreach. Nah. He basically decided to donate $100,000 to support the Democratic challenger in Florida. And basically saying, we need to have somebody new because, DeSantis is a complete total tyrant. And yet the guy who's running against DeSantis went on. I don't know if it was an interview or he just kind of said this, but he said this. He basically said, oh yeah, if you're a hateful, horrible person, I don't want your vote.
Yeah.
And he did, but I want unity in our state, but not with those evil, terrible MAGA people.
I know those people, those basket of deplorables.
Florida is a perfect example of the two forces at play and at war right now in the U.S., which is the honest, America-loving, people-loving, patriotic Canadian Americans, and the people who basically throw mud at everything, hoping that it sticks, and will never take any responsibility for their own horrific actions.
Yeah,
that's the two factions that we have. Go DeSantis.
Go DeSantis.
Hoping no matter what. No matter
what. All right, so let's actually go to the rant of the week this time. So here we go.
Let's do this.
Red alert.
Okay, so today's rant, we're going to talk about how the energy crisis and the food crisis is going to cause some problems. So, from RMX, Germans should use...
Remix.
Well, I guess Remix RMX is on the title line. Germans should use washcloths instead of taking showers so often, says German Regional Green Party PM. So election posters show Winifred Kreischmann from the Greens and party's top candidate for the Baden-Württemberg federal state elections in Mannheim, Germany, has this sign. And I don't know what it says in German, but I'll just read it out to you. Sie kennen mich.
Sie kennen
Sie. I don't know how to read German.
Yeah.
So Baden-Württemberg's Prime Minister Winifred Kreischmann has asked citizens not to shower so much in the future in order to save on energy during Germany's gas crisis. Even the washcloth is a useful invention, the Green politician told Südwest Press. He said he sees himself as a role model when it comes to saving energy. I have an electric car. I have a huge photovoltaic system on the roof. He also ordered a pellet heating system for his home. According to contractors, these devices cost an average of between 14,000 and 21,000 euros in a single-family home. However, there are also much more expensive models. Ooh. Wired magazine reports that these devices rely primarily on wood pellets sourced from forests in the southeastern United States. They are then shipped halfway across the world to individuals like Kreischmann, despite many scientists arguing that these pellets are just as polluting as coal. Although they come from renewable resource, forests are cut down across the United States to make this resource. According to Greenpeace, it destroys biodiversity and ruins entire ecosystems.
Very green.
So we usually only heat one room. It's also healthier if you don't have to have the same temperature everywhere in the house.
Yeah. Tell me that when it's minus 40.
Yeah, he also critiques his own meat consumption, saying he should eat less. Yep, you do you, buddy. We're not doing that.
You ain't need no bugs.
So, yeah, telling your citizens to shower less, because that's going to increase. Well, to shower less and use a washcloth more. Guess what? It's still going to make your people stink more, which is going to increase problems with societal cohesion.
The thing is, too, and I need to add this really quick to the story, is that in France, Emmanuel Macron, who is literally the worst thing that has happened to France in
he's pretty bad.
That guy hates his own people. Anyways, Emmanuel Macron said the time for the time of prosperity or abundance is over. He actually said that in a big speech, basically telling his French citizens, "Oh, by the way, you're all going to suffer now, and you're all going to have to deal with less." This is the kind of announcement that normally comes with socialism. And guess what? France is going hyper socialist. So right on schedule. This is the kind of people hating, the kind of policies that are meant to destroy your own country, not meant to help your own people. These people are not public servants. They cannot stand their own people, and they're creating a crisis, and then they're saying oh, this crisis was inevitable. We couldn't avoid it. There's no way around this. It's incredible. The balls and the cheekiness of these politicians is absolutely deplorable. And then there's a story from Summit News. In that story, it says UK government warned of civil unrest over people being unable to pay energy bills. Mind if I read this one?
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
All right. So going below. Energy executives in the U.S. have warned the government that the country faces the prospect of mass civil unrest as a result of people being unable to afford their heating and electricity bills this winter. So, by the way, for anybody who's wondering, obviously the war in between Ukraine and Russia has exacerbated the energy crisis because Russia, who's basically a major source of natural gas for most of the EU, is kind of cutting off a lot of that supply as a retribution for the West basically trying to economically starve it. And then Ukraine, which is also a major exporter of gas, is also not helping them out. So Germany and France and a lot of other countries are expecting massive, and I mean massive, energy crisis, not only in supply, they're expecting massive blackouts, but in also cost. So this is all connected, in case you're wondering, to the Russia situation. Okay, so the government is being asked to approve radical, and they mean radicals, very much true, COVID-style bailouts for small businesses which face total ruination as a result of soaring energy costs. By the way, this is all by design. They did this with COVID. Now they're doing it in a different style or a different way with these new environmental policies. Energy company bosses have warned ministers they fear civil unrest if nothing is done to cushion the blow of rising bills, reports the Telegraph. One senior industry figure said that when people realize how bad this is going to get, they could take their anger to the streets in the form of violent demonstrations. Comments are similar in nature to those made by campaigner Tom Scott, who was urging people to refuse to pay their bills. And social disorder is on the horizon. So, essentially, what's going on and what they're reporting is that in the UK and a lot of Europe and all over the world too, because remember, a lot of the things that are being affected are either because of the Russia-Ukraine war, but also we're going to see a massive rise in the amount of supply chain shortages are going to come, and food shortages.
Yeah.
A lot of the food shortages are going to hit very hard in Africa and in South America, and a lot of other countries that rely very heavily
on the imports of food,
on food and fertilizer exports. So I want to step back and give you a big picture of what this is looking at. We have governments in a coordinated fashion all over the world that are manufacturing a crisis. So we talked about this in the past. They, Event 201, which was not exactly a secret thing, was suspiciously seemed to be talking about a pandemic that that they're like, oh, this is what a pandemic would look like and how we're going to respond. Funny, they followed the exact same track during COVID. So there's a lot of theories about COVID being a manufactured pandemic, but then this also looks way too suspiciously like a manufactured crisis designed to create havoc and chaos, revolutions, in countries all over the world. So what we saw not that long ago in Sri Lanka, it looks like they want to create that in a lot of other countries.
Yeah,
and Sri Lanka was just basically possibly a tipping point of the earliest one that would go, but we may see this happen in major countries like the UK, like Germany, and countries all over Africa and South America and even Asia.
Yeah, I would add to that, change it up a little bit. Instead of seeing deliberate revolutions, they're trying to push for mass civil violent unrest. And then when there is mass civil violent unrest, then they can justify coming in with martial law and jackbooted thugs.
Yeah.
Because if kind of going back a few months, going back to February when they had that incident with the truckers rally, when they came in with the RCMP. The RCMP and they ran over people.
FBI in there. May have been.
Yeah, maybe. But either or, the public would have supported that had the trucker protest actually been explicitly violent.
Yeah.
But because the trucker protest was not violent, then the public reaction to that event, the public reaction to the violence from the RCMP, not the protesters, was immensely negative, and it changed the entire government's reaction to the lockdowns because of how the people just changed. Many people had a complete 180 in terms of how they reacted to the lockdowns, and many people who were against the lockdowns but weren't willing to say anything started coming out and started speaking out publicly against them.
Yeah, and this is why the Freedom Rally is, I think, is one of the best examples of one of the most perfectly executed peaceful protests in the last, I don't know how many years. It was incredible. Despite the incredible violations of all sorts of laws and norms
and laws and charter rights and freedoms,
nominally peaceful.
Yeah.
But you need to remember, this is coming in the fall. We're seeing three possible things. We're seeing, number one, we're going to see a possible return of lockdowns of some form.
Yeah.
They're already talking about it. Number two, they're talking about a potential food shortages, which are going to be very big. And number three, we're going to see a potential energy crisis.
Yep.
Now, how bad it's going to be depends on where you are. In Canada, we might not face as much of a brunt because we're very close to major we have natural gas
resources.
So natural gas in Alberta is abundantly plentiful, and so we can actually supply ourselves.
Mhm.
Gasoline might be a little more difficult because we rely on foreign kind of like places to provide it. Coal is also very abundantly common, and like to be fair, if a Canadian here is like freezing to death, you can always go out and get firewood. There's firewood everywhere in Alberta, but some countries in the world don't have that luxury, and we may see some very serious unrest. Be ready, because the lunatics that are organizing this thing, they're trying to push the world into a massive crisis. So, yeah, it's like COVID, but in a totally different form.
Yep. And it's nothing good is going to come of it.
Not really.
Yeah. But something that I actually don't know how to take this. But it's interesting to see the media completely change their tune about it. So we're going to jump into our Nothing to See Here segment, because there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, it's just avert your eyes.
Avert your eyes.
Avert your eyes.
Excuse me. All right, move on. Nothing to see here. Please disperse.
All right.
That scene always gets me.
It's funny. It's funny.
Like how over the top it is beautiful. It's so great.
Yeah.
So take
Anyways,
Steven.
so from the Hill, House panel details Trump pressure on FDA for discredited COVID treatment, vaccines. Top Trump administration officials, go away, you stupid app that I can barely see because I have to do this to see it because it's right behind my camera. So, top Trump administration officials pressured the Food and Drug Administration to reauthorize the discredited COVID-19 treatment hydroxychloroquine. It works. And to speed up the release of the first COVID-19 vaccines, according to the new report Democrats in the House Select Coronavirus Subcommittee released Wednesday. Emails, text messages, and testimony obtained by the committee show the Trump White House exerted extreme and inappropriate pressure on the FDA to reauthorize hydroxychloroquine. They never actually authorized it.
No, but they tried.
Yep. As it was shown, as they claim, it was even after it was shown to be ineffective and potentially dangerous.
Yeah, this is by the way, a quick little fact check on this. The potentially dangerous is based on a now
redacted study.
Redacted and completely discredited.
Completely falsified.
Completely falsified. It's now widely known. The fact that the Hill is repeating this lie is
there's a reason that the story is from the Hill, because this is a left-wing source, and even this left-wing source, like their comments about hydroxychloroquine. Okay, this is getting really annoying, but whatever. So we're gonna jump over the stuff about hydroxychloroquine.
Okay.
But so the report also details that the Trump administration influenced.
It's on the right side of the thing.
I know it is. But every time I scroll down, it just appears again. The Hill, you suck. The Trump administration influenced the FDA to deliver misleadingly positive news about convalescent plasma as a coronavirus treatment in the eve of the 2020 Republican National Convention, and the White House attempts to block the FDA from collecting additional safety data on the first coronavirus vaccine in an attempt to ensure that it could be authorized before the 2020 presidential election. Trump later attacked Hahn without evidence for deliberately slowing down the authorizations of the vaccine and convalescent plasma because of politics. The select subcommittee's findings that Trump's White House officials deliberately and repeatedly sought to bend the FDA's scientific work on coronavirus treatments and vaccines to the White House's political will are yet another example of how the prior administration prioritized politics over public health. Said James Clyburn, the panel's chair.
That's like the donkey calling the rabbit long ears.
Yeah.
Gosh. And that works because they're Democrats, so that works.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then where is
it? So you're trying to find a very specific thing that they...
the subcommittee report also details the FDA wanted to advise vaccine manufacturers. The FDA wanted 60 days worth of follow-up patient safety data before applications for emergency use authorization were filed. That request would mean authorization wouldn't occur until after the November 2020 election. Trump had repeatedly said the shots would be authorized before Election Day, despite experts and agency scientists signaling it was unlikely. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what day was authorized? Or what day was announced?
It was. I think it was definitely authorized before the. I know that a lot of the talk was that he was able to make it happen in record time. Like,
Yeah,
and he completely like defied their expectations. They're like, oh, there's no way.
well,
you'll get
it completely
done in time.
defied expectations, but they didn't announce that the vaccine, which was produced through this expedited process from Project Warp Speed, they didn't announce the vaccine's efficacy until the day after the election.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're trying to claim that Trump was trying to use politics over science and public health, and yet they didn't release this information or these claims until after the election, because guess what? They knew that public perception towards Trump and his coronavirus response would be different if they had a highly effective quote-unquote vaccine, that they had this information before the election.
Well, here's the thing. Like, so if you go back in the time machine, go back to what happened, what was going on back then. I was like the what's it called? Wayne's World. Like that. What they did back then is Trump, during that election cycle, he was being heavily criticized for his response with COVID. The whole world was panicking. The Democrats are making a gigantic circle. This is back when CNN still had their like daily like that. They had that thing that never went away. That counter, that thing that was always on their thing, counting all the deaths and all the people who were sick and in hospitals and all that. That mysteriously disappeared after Joe Biden came into office. But anyways, so Trump was under a lot of pressure. People were like criticizing him. Nothing he did was ever good enough with COVID. Every COVID death was blamed on him. So there was a lot of pressure, and Trump was basically following what he thought were probably what he thought were like health experts saying like, yeah, we can get this vaccine done in a very short amount of time. So he was like, great, like what do you need? I'll help out. As soon as Joe Biden entered the White House, he took all the credit for the vaccine. He took all the credit for the COVID response. He's like, "Oh, you see, I'm awesome," and everyone started jumping and telling Joe Biden how great he is. But suddenly, now they're trying to like post this narrative that, oh my goodness, Trump is responsible for rushing this vaccine a little too much, even though they tried to like say like well, he's not really responsible and I'll never take the vaccine. Why would they do that now? Now,
well,
you remember how Fauci...
You and I would know.
Yes, but lay it out first, Steven.
Well, they're doing this now because the evidence against the vaccine's efficacy, the evidence against the vaccine's protection, and the evidence for the vaccine's harm
is starting to come out not just a little bit. It's not just one or two people that are like, oh, the vaccine did this to me. No. Droves and droves of people have been affected by this vaccine. Not everybody that's taken it has been affected, but the chances and the likelihood of having an adverse reaction from these shots is quite high. It's
far higher than any other vaccine that we know of to this date.
Yeah. Oh, it's worse than that, man. Like some of the numbers I was hearing, if you're a young person, you have a 92% higher chance of having of dying or of getting seriously ill from the vaccine as opposed to someone who's unvaccinated. 92%. That was insane when I saw that. 2 times as many people are reporting vaccine deaths or vaccine harms to COVID deaths from two recent U.S. surveys, and 40% of American women are reporting major disruptions to their periods after the vaccine. That was like somewhere like in the line of like 80 million women in America. So all these things are starting to come out. It's like having a dam, and you're getting leaks everywhere, and it's only a matter of time before these leaks are exploding. So this takes us to a very important story that broke this past week. This is from ESPN, and it talks about Novak Djokovic. Okay, so Novak Djokovic, for anybody who doesn't know, He's a major tennis star. Like
I would say he's probably the number one tennis player in the world.
I think he is right now. For a long time, actually, Steven, can you name two other major tennis stars, male tennis stars, in the last 20 years?
Rafael Nadal.
Yep.
And
Roger Federer.
Roger Federer, yes.
Yeah, those are the two big names. Now, there's more, but those are the two major names. Novak Djokovic was always under the radar for a lot of them. Like most of their big championships, their big fights, Novak was right underneath. He was a consistent third.
Yeah.
Now, I think Federer is retired. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's retired. And Rafael Nadal, I'm not sure if he's still going, but Novak is number one. He already missed the Australian Open. He missed the vaccine, and now he's going to miss the U.S. Open because the U.S. is not letting foreign nationals to come into the States if they're not vaccinated. And so this is his statement here. You can read it.
Yeah. So from Novak. Sadly, I will not be able to travel to New York this time for the United States Open. Thank you, #NoFam, for your messages of love. Good luck to my fellow players. I'll keep in good shape and positive spirit and wait for an opportunity to compete again. See you soon, tennis world.
All right. So you might think, okay, this seems kind of ridiculous. Okay, maybe he's going he's going too far, isn't he? Like he's losing a major opportunity to play tennis on the world stage. This is the prime of his life. He probably would have won the Australian Open. Everyone thought he would. He probably has a very legitimate shot of winning the U.S. Open. But even he himself says that this is not even that important compared to the ability to basically be able to control what goes into his own body, like bodily autonomy, which is important. Now a lot of people are saying, "Oh my goodness, this is he's going too far. Just take the shot. Stop being a baby. Stop whining. It's not a big deal, like the people say with the masks and all that." But here's the thing: this seems ridiculous and seems insane until you start seeing some of the things that have happened recently. And funny enough, this week, another major thing that you probably haven't heard of actually happened, and it happened to a guy whose name you probably have never heard of, but who is an elite champion or elite athlete who won a major championship, but who died, and you probably didn't hear about it. So this is the story from the Counter Signal.
Mm-hmm.
You can go there. So from the Counter Signal, the story is Rab. It's an interesting name, Rab Waddell. So his name is Rab. Rab Waddell dies suddenly 2 days after winning Scottish championship. This is literally yesterday. That story came up. So 37-year-old mountain biker Rab Waddell died suddenly of cardiac arrest in his sleep, just days after winning the Scottish championship. Now, anybody who's been following us and has seen some of the videos we posted and some of the things we talked about, you know that there's been a massive explosion of major elite athletes dying totally suddenly and totally unexpectedly, not long after their major, either during competition or shortly after competition. So this is what happened. The Scottish Cross Country Association Facebook posted, "We had the saddest news. We are devastated to relay to you the tragic news that our friend, champion Rab Waddell, has died overnight. Deepest sympathy to his friends, family, and loved ones. He will be missed." But as so often happens in all these announcements, I didn't read the whole thing, but in all these announcements, they always talk about "Oh, we're so sad, but they never really tell you what happened. What was the cause? It's always the mystery, and they never want to tell you what the mystery was. Here's the thing. So what they say is that they don't know what happened. Real. He seemed to be so healthy and happy. He went into cardiac arrest while we were lying in bed. I tried. Paramedic arrived within minutes, but his heart stopped and they couldn't bring him back. This is a healthy man with no prior symptoms, dies completely suddenly, completely unexpectedly. And said that he had the second dose of the Pfizer COVID vaccine last summer.
No, that was someone else.
Warner. Oh, this is somebody. Yeah, that's right.
So it says Waddell's vaccination status remains unknown. But another famous mountain biker spoke about the adverse effects of his vaccine when he had a severe adverse effect and was diagnosed with pericarditis. And of course, at a rally in Washington, D.C., he opened up about his experience in front of thousands of rally goers.
Yeah, so this is you'll notice
it's
a pattern.
It's suspicious,
very
to say the
suspicious.
least.
Mm-hmm.
But so is so many other videos, and we can show you a couple compilations. We'll show you just a couple clips from them.
Yeah.
So just take a look. If you don't attribute this to the shots, you have to be raising serious questions. Why is this continually happening?
Mm-hmm.
And why aren't these companies being held liable?
Full screen it. So here's a lady reporter just falling over. Here you have another reporter speaking at some kind of Indian thing. You see her face, and she completely collapses, falls off a platform.
Ooh.
Really, really harshly.
High fall.
Mm-hmm. Baby falls off the platform. And by the way, I have seen dozens of these.
Yeah.
The collapsing. And there's more.
Yeah.
On air. Totally collapsing. Lady during a gas falling over. Commercial. Falls over. Again on air. Pilot during a flight.
Oh, he died, man. I didn't see that one.
Person collapses behind politician.
Yeah.
So, by the way, Stephen, do you remember really early, at the very beginning of the whole COVID vaccination push and all that, there was that one nurse, and she was famous because she was talking, and all of a sudden she got all woozy, and she collapsed, and everyone was like, nope, nothing is totally
it wasn't the shots. It wasn't the shots.
It literally happened. I think it was like she had just gotten the vaccine, and within like minutes of getting the vaccine, she completely collapsed. It was unreal when I saw it. I was just absolutely flabbergasted. Mm-hmm. By the way, that was at the very beginning. The amount of stories of videos of this kind of stuff happening are so massive.
Oh, they've just spiraled out of control.
It spiraled out of control. And here's the important thing. The fact that these are happening on live TV makes you wonder how many times has this happened in places where people are, like, how many people have collapsed at someone's house, at the gym, in bed? How many people have had these incidents happen to them when they're not in front of a camera? The fact that these are happening so consistently on camera tells you something. Tells you that this is so common that it's actually happening on live TV because this is so widespread. It is a massive cover-up. It's incredible. And this is like the final story we wanted to kind of focus on. This is from the Irish Light. This highlighted something that is important to kind of talk about. So Stephen, take us into it.
Okay, well, just like one of the pictures of this. So, heart disease in children explodes since vaccine. Sudden deaths of children soars. Media stay silent. Of course, we've talked about this many times.
Mm-hmm.
So, greatest crime ever committed by an Irish government, and there have been many, will not be concealed from the Irish people for much longer, as hard as the HSE tries to cover up the horrifying impact. There is no containing the staggering tolls of sudden deaths in young people. Almost daily, the faces of sporty teenagers and newborn infants appear in the pages of the RIP, and perfectly healthy children struck down by a fatal heart attack, stroke, or sudden unexplained death. There's also been a sharp rise in the cases of sudden and severe hepatitis in children under 10, which has been seen in at least 20 countries, including Ireland, where so many healthy children dying.
Yeah.
Well,
and of course
yeah.
they go on, but
And it goes on, yeah. Healthy people
it's
dropping
the
like
big
flies.
question, because you can argue that, elderly people or people in their 50s or 60s, yeah, they can have strokes, they can have heart attacks, but not children.
Yeah.
Heart attacks, strokes, all those kind of things.
Chances of a heart attack. The chances of a child getting a heart attack is lower than the chances of a child dying from COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But nowadays, children, adolescents, those in their teen years, those who are in their young adult years, you hear about it all the time.
Yeah. Actually, really quick before you move on to the second part, can you just go back quick to that Bradion story? I just want to show that, just show the first 10 seconds of that.
Sure.
Right here.
Just days after getting their second COVID-19 vaccine, 2 teenage boys died in their sleep. Medical experts have been investigating what happened, and they've now released their report. An epidemiologist says it adds to a body of evidence that confirms Pfizer's vaccine can lead to death in children. And TD's Miguel Moreno reports.
Yeah.
So obviously watch the video if you want. This is by no means an isolated incident. This is I saw a story about people who make coffins for children. That's a rare thing. Very rare do you ever get
that story which was talking about it, they had never made a bulk order for children.
Yeah.
And they had to do several bulk orders since the start of 2021.
There's so many children that are dying suddenly and
well, like the evidence against, it's no longer just circumstantial. It's no longer just, that's just a conspiracy. Look at the data. And it's like, well, the data is backing us up. Mm-hmm. Like, the data is not supported using taking more and more COVID-19 shots since mid-2021. And the data has been piling up that there's some odd sources of death that are becoming more prevalent. And now there's a transition, or at least there might be a transition, to say, well, the vaccine wasn't as safe, the vaccine wasn't as effective as we said it was, but it wasn't our fault. It was because Trump rushed it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest faults that conservatives and Republicans have with Trump, is his promotion of the vaccine is skeptical, because it's more of an ego thing for him. Sure. And unfortunately, just the way Trump is, no matter how much evidence that comes out against it, he'll be like, well, it's my vaccine, so I made it, and so it's wonderful. It's like, well, no, let's go. Let's take the facts. Let's take the evidence. Yeah. Warp speed did not help the American people. It did not help the people of the world. Yeah. And it allowed these big pharma institutions to control and to dominate and to poison hundreds of millions. Actually, it was several billion people around the world.
I think Steve Hirsch, when he actually was in an interview, he was estimated that there was probably tens of millions of people that have died as a direct result of this vaccine, and then hundreds of millions that have been injured. In his estimates. Right now, we're already seeing the numbers in the astronomical range. But go back to that, just to bring it all full circle, as Jen Psaki used to say, to circle back. Bring it back to that Irish Times story. And at the very beginning of that, there's interesting thing that it says. So it says, the healthiest people in the world are dropping dead. So that's the second story. Uh-huh. Interesting what it says at the beginning. It says in March, Australian world number 1 tennis player Ash Barty retired at age 25. Previously, she withdrew from 2 U.S. tournaments due to health concerns. World number Zoo golfer and 2020 Olympic gold medalist Nelly Korda announced that she was diagnosed with blood clots and recovering at her home in Florida. You can keep going, Steve.
Yep. So in February, 17-year-old Danish golf prodigy Viggo Sorensen, winner of the Emirates Golf Federation Order of Merit, suffered a sudden cardiac arrest and died in late March. Danish handball player Mikkel Hansen, one of the best handball players in the world, suffered phlebitis, vein inflammation, and pulmonary embolism, ending his season. In February, French number 1 tennis player Gaël Monfils suffered an adverse reaction to his booster vaccination and had to withdraw from the Davis Cup, and it just goes on.
It just goes on
and on.
Like this is not a couple of isolated incidents. This is just like
I've heard of this player. I've heard of because Sergio Aguero.
Sergio Aguero,
former Manchester City and FC Barcelona striker Sergio Aguero. He's like one of the best soccer players in the world because if you play for FC Barcelona,
you're one of the top ones.
Like the best football team in the world is Real Madrid. And FC Barcelona is in the same division.
If you look just below the picture of that girl who's like going down, it says in March, Belgian cyclist Cedric Bakeland died of a heart attack during a training camp in Mallorca. Scottish cyclist John Paulo also died of a heart attack. Italian top cyclist Sonny Colbrelli. That now makes 5 cyclists. The one that we talked about, the one, the Scottish one. Then there's that other guy who was injured. Then there's these 3 people. Like this, you're telling me that this is all totally unrelated and totally, totally just a coincidence. Nothing to see here. This is the